Boys, you're with me today. Let's start with the story. The reflection below. Anjum didn't believe in omens, but something about the way the moving truck's tire blew out at the foot of the hollow creek made him uneasy. The winding road through the dense West Bengal forest was barely used, and the map on his phone flickered like it was trying to warn him. Still, this old mansion was a stale ancestral property, inherited through a bloodline he would never care to trace. After losing his job and going through a rough divorce, it felt like fate had finally given him something back: solitude, nature, and peace. The house was enormous, Victorian style, with tall windows, ivy crawling up stone walls, and a huge oak standing like a sentry in the front yard. The locals had called it Parchai Haveli, or the Shadowed House. Creepy name, he'd thought, but folklore never scared him. Until the first night. He hadn't even finished unpacking when he heard soft footsteps above, but the second floor was empty. Dust lay untouched on the floorboards, but the footsteps continued night after night, always at 3:33 a.m. precisely. He convinced himself it was wood settling. That is, until he found out the mirror. It was hidden behind a faded curtain at the end of the hall, a room filled with old furniture, all covered in sheets except for one item: an ornate, full-length mirror. It wasn't dusty like everything else. In fact, it looked recently cleaned. The frame was strange, intricate. Sorry, guys. The frame was intricate, carvings of faces, some twisted in laughter, others in agony. He caught a glimpse of himself in as he stepped closer. But something was off. His reflection wasn't quite synchronized. His head turned a fraction slower than it should have. He blinked and stepped back. Just tired, he told himself. That night, the footsteps grew louder. And this time, they came down the stairs. Anjum set up a camera in the hallway, aimed at the stairs. When he checked the footage the next morning, his heart dropped. At 3:35 a.m., the camera shook slightly, then went dead. No power outage, just black screen for exactly 3 minutes. When it came back, the mirror room door was open. He hadn't touched it. He returned to the room in daylight, checking every inch. That's when he noticed something new in the reflection. A figure in the mirror standing behind him. He turned, nothing. Turned back, the figure was closer. A man, tall, wearing an old-style kurta. Face pale and expression unreadable. His eyes were black, not just dark, completely black. Anjum stumbled out, slamming the door shut behind him. That night, the dreams began. They whispered his name, soft at first, like a breeze slipping under the door. Anjum, they said. Then clearer. Come see. Come look. He waits. He found himself waking up at 3:33 a.m., drenched in sweat, always facing the mirror room door. And the mirror, the reflection was changing. One night, he looked into it and saw not himself, but his old apartment, his ex-wife crying, himself yelling. Another night, he saw his father's funeral. Another, his childhood dog being run over. Memories, regrets, guilt. Each vision drained him. He felt weak, hollow. He boarded up the mirror room, nailed it shut, burned incense, prayed. It didn't help. The footsteps now walked the halls, day and night. Sometimes he would see shadows just beyond doorways. Sometimes the mirror whispered, Hidden behind a floorboard in the study, an old leather bound book, cracked with age. It belonged to a man named Rafiq, his great grandfather. Anjum flipped through the pages of the scribbled entries. The mirror must never be looked into for long. It shows the soul twisted by sin. The man in the mirror is not a ghost. He is you, untethered. Once awakened, he will walk. He will replace. Anjum froze. The last entry was a single word scrawled violently. Run. He tried to leave. He packed a bag, got into his car, turned the ignition, and the reflection in the rear view mirror smiled at him. He ran into town frantic, told the police. They humored him, took him to a doctor. He was diagnosed with sleep deprivation, possibly psychosis. They gave him pills, he took none. When he returned, the front door was wide open. Inside, every mirror, every single one, was uncovered. Even the one in the attic he didn't know existed. They all showed him, but in each he looked different, more pale, more smug, as if the reflections knew something he didn't. And the mirror room door, wide open. The final night, he stood before the mirror. Who are you? He demanded. His reflection blinked, then smiled. I am you, without lies, without guilt. I remember everything you forget. No, Anjum whispered. You are not real. Oh, but I am, the reflection said, stepping closer. And now, thanks to you, I can be free. The glass cracked, shot out, cold, solid. It grabbed Anjum by the throat, pulling him into the mirror. He screamed, kicked, but his limbs grew heavier. He felt himself being sucked in. And then, silence. The next morning, the villagers saw smoke rising from Parchai Haveli. The house had burned down. Officials called it an electrical fire. They never found a body, but in the ash and rubble, someone found a mirror untouched, unscratched. It was moved to the town hall's basement for safekeeping. Sometimes, late at night, the janitor swears he hears knocking from the glass. And if you look closely, you can see a man inside. He looks just like Anjum, but he doesn't blink, and he's smiling. Boys, you're...